When my neighbor set fire to my cornfield, she thought it would end my farm and my kids' college dreams. What she didn't know, I'd been watching, recording, and waiting for her to slip up. By the time firefighters arrived, her smug smile had turned to pure panic. The night sky glowed orange as flames devoured my cornfield, each stalk crackling in the heat like brittle bones. Smoke poured into the sky, thick and choking, carrying the bitter scent of everything I'd worked for. 3 acres of corn, months of labor, years of family tradition, were vanishing in minutes. And there she stood, Karen, arms crossed at the fence line, that smug smirk plastered across her face. Her phone was out, live streaming like she was proud of the destruction. To her, this wasn't my kid's future going up in flames. It was entertainment. But then came the sound she didn't expect, sirens. At first faint, then growing louder, closing in fast. Her smile faltered. She spun toward the road, realizing the fire trucks weren't passing by. They were coming here. Her face twisted, panic replacing arrogance. She looked around like maybe she could slip away unseen. But it was too late. Because what she didn't know, I'd been waiting for this moment. I'd set my trap weeks ago. The cameras were rolling, the evidence was airtight, and this fire wasn't just hers to start. It was mine to end. But to understand how we got here, let's back up. My name's Charlie, and this farm isn't just dirt and crops. It's my family's bloodline. My grandfather bought these 8 acres back in the 50s, with nothing more than calloused hands and a handshake. Every harvest since has carried his legacy. These cornfields are more than food. They're my daughter's future. Sarah and Emma, both 18, both college-bound. One's chasing veterinary school, the other engineering. Tuition, $30,000 each. My harvest, the kernels drying in silos, the rows swaying in summer heat. That's what makes those dreams possible. Every stalk, every cob, every ear of corn is worth something. It's sweat turned into tuition, soil turned into hope. Without it, there's no future for them, no way forward for us. So when someone decided this land was just a roadblock to their suburban dream homes, when someone treated it like a playground for sabotage, they weren't just messing with crops. They were messing with generations of sacrifice. I fought overseas, but I never thought I'd have to fight a war in my own backyard. And yet here I was, staring down a woman who thought greed gave her the right to burn down everything I'd built. Her name? Karen Hartwell, self-appointed queen of the neighborhood, HOA president, part-time realtor, and full-time nightmare. She moved in 3 years ago into the biggest McMansion money could buy. Her backyard pressed right up against my fence. The first time she showed up at my door, clipboard in hand, I should have known trouble had arrived. "We've had complaints," she said, her plastic smile barely hiding the venom underneath. "Your tractor's visible from the street. It's lowering property values." I laughed, thinking she was joking. That John Deere's been there longer than her entire subdivision. But her eyes went cold, and her voice sharpened. Being a good neighbor means considering how your choices affect others. Translation? Sell your land. Get out. Make room for developers. That's when I realized Karen wasn't just a busybody with too much time. She was a predator dressed in vinyl siding and fake shutters. She wanted my land, and she'd stop at nothing to get it. And just days later, I caught her at the fence line with a man in a suit, pointing at my fields like they were already sold. "Perfect for luxury townhomes," she whispered. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't a disagreement. This was war. The first attack came quietly. 3 irrigation hoses slashed overnight. In July heat, that's like choking the life out of 30,000 corn plants. I spent hours in the blazing sun patching hoses, sweat dripping, anger boiling. Then came the fire marshal. Clipboard in hand, apologetic eyes. "Got a complaint," he said. "Unauthorized burning on your property." He showed me photos. Smoke rising in the distance, framed to look like it was mine. Except it wasn't. They were fake. Next came the neighbors. Suddenly, I had strangers photographing my barn, whispering about safety violations. Turns out Karen had been bribing them. $50 here, a free dinner there, to file bogus complaints. It was death by 1,000 cuts. A broken fence board here, sugar in the gas tank there. She wanted me exhausted, broke, and desperate enough to sell. But she underestimated one thing. I've been through worse. Overseas, I learned patience, strategy, how to hold a line under pressure. So I stopped reacting, and I started recording. Every vandalized hose, every fake violation, every suspicious footprint by the fence line. She thought she was building a case against me. But what she didn't know, she was handing me the evidence I needed to take her down. And the more desperate she became, the sloppier she got. One evening, Harold, my 75-year-old neighbor, shuffled up to the fence. He looked nervous, glancing over his shoulder. "Marcus," he whispered, "we need to talk." Turns out Karen had knocked on his door too. Offered him $500 cash if he'd notice violations on my farm. Harold's late wife used to love watching my grandfather work these fields, and he wasn't about to betray that memory. Instead, he became my inside man. What he told me chilled me to the bone. Karen wasn't just filing complaints. She'd already promised my land to developers, signed contracts, taken advances, and hidden in those contracts were deadlines. If she didn't deliver my property by fall, she'd owe thousands in penalties. She was gambling with money she didn't have. And that made her dangerous. Because when people are cornered, they don't just fight dirty. They fight reckless. That's when I knew things were going to get worse, much worse. I wasn't going to sit back anymore. I went on the offensive. First, cameras everywhere. Hidden in the barn, along the fence, covering the irrigation system. Night vision, motion sensors, even trail cams. If she so much as stepped on my land, I'd have proof. Second, legal armor. I filed for an agricultural conservation easement, took a stack of paperwork and a filing fee. But when it was approved, my land became untouchable. Even if I wanted to sell, no developer could ever touch it. Third, allies. My wife Denise dug through case law. My old army buddy Rodriguez, now a deputy sheriff, was just a call away. And Harold kept feeding me intel from inside her little committee. The trap was set. All I had to do was wait for Karen to make her final move. And knowing her, it wouldn't take long. It happened on a humid Thursday night. Dead calm. Perfect for fire to spread. Through my thermal cameras, I saw two figures creeping along the fence line. Karen and her hired investigator. Each carried containers, sloshing with accelerant. They moved methodically, pouring poison into the earth. I watched from my grandfather's hunting blind, heart pounding steady. Phone recording. Radio linked directly to dispatch. "Remember," Karen hissed. "This has to look like an accident." Then she flicked her lighter. The corn ignited instantly. Flames racing across rows like they'd been waiting for this moment. The sky lit up, and so did the alarms. My cameras triggered the fire department automatically. Sirens wailed within minutes. Karen's smirk lasted only seconds before red and blue lights cut through the smoke. Fire trucks roared down the gravel road, firefighters leaping into action, hoses blasting. And there she was, caught in the act, accelerant still in her hand, face pale with shock. She tried to run, but the sheriff's cruisers boxed her in. Flashlights. Command shouted, cuffs snapping shut. She thought she'd burn me out. Instead, she burned her own future to ash. The very next week, the whole town gathered at a council meeting. That's where it all came out. Harold testified. Rodriguez presented evidence. I played the recordings of Karen plotting arson, bribing neighbors, promising land she didn't own. The room went silent. People gasped, heads shaking. And then came the verdict. Karen arrested, her real estate license revoked, her development deal collapsed. As she was let out in handcuffs, I caught her one last time. No smirk, no power, just fear. That night, I walked the rows of my surviving cornfield. The air smelled of smoke, but also of victory. My land was safe. My daughter's future secure. And Karen? She was nothing but a cautionary tale. She wanted to torch my harvest. Instead, she set fire to her own life. And that, my friends, is how an HOA bully learned the hard way. You don't mess with a farmer who knows how to fight back.